What's happening, UFC fight fans? Ryan Thomas here on the Thomas Take Sports podcast. Of course, I love to cover the team behind me, the Buffalo Bills, but as well, I greatly enjoy discussing all things UFC, mixed martial arts, MMA, whatever you want to call it, previewing and predicting the fight cards, especially for the Ultimate Fighting Championship, and their big cards that they have had over the course of the last 2 years have been a godsend for anyone looking to consume content in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. The UFC has been rock steady these last 2 years due to the great fights, due to staying with it as far as putting on great fights. And that's not something that we got from every sports league. A lot of trepidation during those scary, uncertain times. But the UFC said, you know what? We're going to fight through it. We're going to put fights on. And we're going to do it safe. And we're going to do it right. And, man, they have been rock steady for their hardcore fans. And I'm sure that they've enjoyed bringing in new fans to the sport, bringing in new fans to the UFC, as they have doubled their fan numbers, 47, almost 50%, 47% over the course of the last 2 years. So, with that being said, I've been around a long time as far as not just this podcast. The Thomas Take Sports podcast started in January of 2016, I believe. So it's been 6 years that I've been at this. And it's been 6 awesome years that I've been able to add content, create content, have viewers and listeners that consume content and interact with those listeners and with those viewers of the show. And it's just been a true treat for me as well over the course of the show's history, discussing, analyzing, predicting, previewing fights that are attention-grabbing. And obviously, this last UFC fight night, I did a side Thomas take on Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. And Paddy the Baddy Pimblett questioning whether or not he is, in fact, or in fact not, the next UFC superstar. I talk about that and much, much more in a side take. So expect that to come right after this episode is posted on my YouTube channel. And folks, if you're looking for great MMA content, I ask you guys to subscribe to the YouTube channel for all combat sports coverage. Follow the Thomas Take Sports podcast, fight predictions, post-fight analysis, post-fight reactions, and listen to yours truly, Ryan Thomas, play MMA Matchmaker after an event is over. So UFC 277 takes place this Saturday night, July 30th, 2022, and it's a fantastic card. It's a card that has major implications, legacy implications, okay? Legacy implications. And I don't say those words lightly. I don't use those words oftentimes when discussing fights. Legacy matters in the fight world, in the fight vocabulary. Legacy is everything. How you are remembered, for better or for worse, matters. And this UFC 277 main event is a legacy fight, the likes of which we haven't seen in quite some time. This rematch between Julianna Pena and Amanda Nunes is earth-shattering as far as the implications for the future. Earth-shattering as far as what to expect for the future. And it's amazing. I got something on my mic, but I can't tell if it's like a crystal or what, but whatever. Anywho, with that being said, Julianna Pena and Amanda Nunes. That main event is one that I've been thinking about since the first fight. And before I go into the main event, I want to just rattle off the fights that are on this card as I'm looking at it on the UFC app here. Let's go to the prelims first. The prelims, you do have some names that we should know. Drew Dober versus Rafael Alves. That is a lightweight. I believe that is a That is a lightweight going up against a featherweight, but I'm not sure what fight or what weight that bout is being conducted in. Or conducted at, I should say. Alex Morano versus Matthew Semmelsberger. That's one that should be fun. But the main card is really what I'm looking at in terms of action-packed moments and action-packed bouts. Alejandro Pantoja versus Alex Perez, a flyweight fight that I think the winner of that fight could be next in line for a title shot. Derrick Lewis versus Sergey Pevlovich. Pavlovich is 15-1 as a heavyweight. Derrick Lewis lost his last fight to Tuito Ivasa via TKO, and Sergey Pavlovich is on a 3-fight win streak. So this is a real tough opponent for Derrick Lewis to come back against, and I wouldn't expect anything less from Derrick Lewis to take on a fighter that wouldn't be anything less than a stud. I mean, that's all Derrick Lewis has fought. The competition level in which Derrick Lewis has fought, over the course of his career is truly awesome. And I'd say to Sergey, you better be prepared. You better be prepared for that big right hand from Derrick Lewis. Co-main event, you got Brandon Moreno versus Cara France for the UFC interim flyweight championship. And, of course, in the main event, you got Julianna Pena versus Amanda Nunes. I want to talk about Moreno versus Cara France 2. And this is the second fight, as it says, 2. The second fight. Most people don't remember their first fight. I do. Their first fight was a true clash of styles. The first fight was a true clash of heads in terms of not their heads clashing, but a true clash of two tough guys willing to put it on the line to find out which one was better. And Brandon Moreno is one of the toughest sons of bitches that I've ever seen in the UFC, especially at flyweight. Davison Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno, outside of Mighty Mouse Johnson and Henry Cejudo and Joseph Benavidez, those three guys ruled that division for a long time. Joseph Benavidez never touched UFC gold, unfortunately, because I was a big fan of his. I still am. Always will be. But Brandon Moreno and Cara France, as well as Davison Figueiredo, those are like the three new guys now. Before you had Mighty Mouse, you had Cejudo, you had Benavidez. Now you got Figueiredo, the champ. Brandon Moreno, arguably the champ right now. The case could be made. Those fights were so close. That trilogy was so awesome. You could easily see a fourth fight between those two. What's taking place in that division is just simply business at its finest in terms of Davison Figueiredo not wanting to basically say, hey, I'm not fighting Moreno again. He's got to fight somebody else before he gets to me. Maybe Figueiredo won't even fight at the flyweight division. The UFC doesn't even know at this point, which is why they had to put an interim belt on the line for this fight. Because Davison Figueiredo, as the sitting lineal champ right now in that division, he might never fight in that division again. There's a very good chance he doesn't. And if he doesn't, then Brandon Moreno and Cara France, they're fighting for the actual championship. This interim title could very well become the lineal title if, in fact, Davison Figueiredo is stripped, of his UFC championship, moves up to 135, because we know he's a very big fighter, cuts down to 125. We also know he feels in his mind that he does not have to fight Brandon Moreno to prove his worth to the company. And I can't say he's wrong for that. What I can say is the simple fact that Brandon Moreno and Cara France are the rightful names that should be fighting for this interim title, are the rightful names that should be going up against one another for this highly anticipated bout that has title implications. Anytime you have an interim title on the line, it does have implications. I don't like the fact that most fight fans look at that UFC interim title and look at it like it's a piece of plastic. It's not. It matters. Whether Davis and Figueiredo fights in the division again or not, you're putting a belt on a fighter once this fight is over. Unless it goes to a draw, which I don't think it will. I see somebody getting finished in this fight. I see it being a close fight, too. I could see it going to the distance. I could see it being a close fight. I could see it going either way. But to be honest with you, I think both guys are completely different fighters now than comparatively to what they were when they first fought. When they first fought, they were very well matched. They might be even more well matched, shall I say, in this second fight than what they were in the first fight, because both fighters have major title fight or big fight experience. They fought under those UFC bright lights. They fought within that octagon. Where the fascinating part about this fight between Brandon Moreno and Cara France is that they were on The Ultimate Fighter. They both got cut from The Ultimate Fighter. And they made their way back, not cut from The Ultimate Fighter. They both lost in The Ultimate Fighter. And they both eventually got a second crack at it with another contract in the UFC. And Moreno was in the UFC once, got cut from the UFC, fought in another organization, worked his way back into the UFC, becomes the champ. Whereas Cara France, the story was a little bit different. But Cara France fought Cody Garbrandt in his last fight. And holy crap, the combination that he threw and landed, the setup. You could talk all you want about Cody Garbrandt, not having the best chin in comparison to what he did. You could talk all that talk about that. Talk that talk, that's fine. But Cara France is a much better fighter than what he's given credit for. This guy is legitimate. This guy is a force to be reckoned with. And Brandon Moreno is not taking him lightly. Brandon Moreno hasn't taken anybody lightly in his whole career, and he's not going to start now. So this co-main event featuring Brandon Moreno and Cara France is a great one. And truthfully, I believe it to be the best fight for this division right here, right now, outside of Davis and Figueiredo fighting either one of these guys again. So, who do I have winning the fight? Truthfully, I feel like whoever is the toughest fighter is going to win this fight. Now, I know Brandon Moreno's got a lot of wear and tear on his body from those Figueiredo fights. The version of Moreno that we're going to get in this fight is a different version in terms of the mileage that he's put on himself from those performances against Davis and Figueiredo. But I will tell you this, I think Moreno will come in here more technical because he's going to need to be, because Cara France is a very technical opponent. I think Cara France could easily put the lights out against anybody, but I think the championship experience of Brandon Moreno is going to be enough to beat Cara France. So I'm going with Brandon Moreno winning this fight. I think that's the right mentality for me to approach this fight. Whoever went toe-to-toe with Davis and Figueiredo, I think has a disadvantage as well as an advantage in this fight, and I do see that being Brandon Moreno. So I got Moreno for that one. Derrick Lewis as well, as I mentioned. Derrick Lewis as well is a fighter that I greatly admire. He's fighting Sergey Pevlovich. I think that's a very tough fight for Derrick Lewis, but I am going to go with Derrick Lewis winning that one. So I want to sidebar to that and mainly talk about the co-main event as I just did and really dive deep into the main event, which is Julianna Pena versus Amanda Nunes 2. Now, this fight card takes place in Dallas, Texas. I always love when the UFC goes to Dallas because the fight fans down there are loud and they understand the sport. And that's really cool to see how far MMA has evolved to the point where you see places like Dallas, you see places like, where else? Florida, you see places like Cali. You see places really understand the ins and outs of the sport, moments within fights where the attendance, the crowd, really get it. Where back in the day, that didn't really exist. Back in the day, people didn't understand what was going on in the ground. They thought a takedown was bad. They thought armbar was a chokehold. Obviously, I'm being facetious, but you get my point. More people understand the sport of mixed martial arts now than they did, 10, 15 years ago. And when you see the UFC go through these territories that they've been through, in the States, I remember when they were going through those territories in the States and people didn't even know what the sport was. So it's just awesome to see, like, Dallas, Texas is the home for this event. UFC 277, I love it. So, main event, Julianna Pena, Amanda Nunes, the women's bantamweight championship is on the line, and Amanda Nunes still has the women's featherweight championship. The former champ Amanda Nunes, I say former because Julianna Pena did exactly what she said she was going to do to Amanda Nunes, and she talked that talk. Julianna talked that talk for a long time, calling out Amanda Nunes, saying that that's the fight that she wanted, saying that's the fight that she deserved. She got it. She told everyone what she was going to do, how she was going to do it, including Amanda Nunes. She told Amanda Nunes what she was going to do and how she was going to do it, and she did just that. She moved forward. She ate her punches. She bit down on her mouthpiece and threw punches of her own. Those punches landed, and they were harder. They were cleaner. They were more accurate. And Julianna Pena was the best 135-pound female on that night. We know that. The question is, can she do it again? The question is she still the best 135-pound female fighter in the world? And I don't know what to make of that question, because on one hand, I do believe that Julianna Pena is the rightful champion, because in that performance, she was the best. As I just said, she was the best 135-pound fighter in the women's division on that night. But Amanda Nunes is still the greatest 135-pound, 145-pound female mixed martial arts fighter that has ever lived. Can Amanda Nunes get back what she lost? Can Amanda Nunes prove that she's still the best? Can lightning strike twice, is what I'm saying. Without being disrespectful to Julianna Pena, that was the biggest upset in recent UFC history, going back to Holly Holm and Ronda Rousey, which I was not thinking that was an upset, but especially going back to the night, April 7th, 2007, where Matt Serra defeated George St. Pierre and won the UFC welterweight title. That is the biggest upset in the sport's history. Doesn't get any bigger than that. You can throw me Luke Rockhold and Mike Bisping, or Bisping knocking out Luke Rockhold in their second fight, Bisping winning the title. That was a big upset, for sure. But Matt Serra beating George St. Pierre was the biggest. Julianna Pena beating Amanda Nunes was the second biggest upset in the sport's history. So, yes, the common denominator, you're doing the math for me. Matt Serra, the greatest male upset in UFC history in a men's bout. Julianna Pena achieved the greatest upset win for a female fighter in UFC history. Can she do it twice in a row? Matt Serra couldn't. We never saw Holly fight Ronda again. We never saw Luke Rockhold fight Bisping for the third time to right that wrong in Rockhold's mind. Which is why this fight is so goddamn special. And which is why this fight needed to happen immediately. If anybody deserved an immediate rematch, it was Amanda Nunes. I do believe that Amanda Nunes is now no longer the same woman post that fight against Julianna Pena. When you lose like that, the switch is changed in your head, your mentality. It's hard to get back that level, that aura of invincibility when you lose like that. You lose to the point where you're eating punches, you're hurt, you're rocked, you get taken down, you get your back taken, and you get choked. All those things happened to Amanda Nunes in a span of 20 seconds. And they were in front of everyone. They were in front of the whole world. So can Amanda Nunes compartmentalize that fight and take that fight away, essentially, from her mindset, throw it in the garbage, don't bring it into this fight and just go out there like she did before against Megan Anderson, against Holly Holm, against Misha Tate, against Ronda Rousey, against Chris Cyborg. Arguably, those are the best women outside of Amanda Nunes. In terms of their resumes, in terms of what they accomplished. Former champs that she finished. All of them. But is Julianna Pena her kryptonite? I think that's the big question heading into this fight. And we're going to know for certain. And hey, if Amanda Nunes wins this fight, which she very well could, I'm not going to say she's not going to win it. I'm not going to say she's going to lose it yet. But let me tell you, if Amanda Nunes wins this fight, she will fight Julianna Pena again. This will be a trilogy because they'd be one apiece. And the big rubber match, pay up, Dana. Pay up, Dana, to Amanda. Pay up to Julianna Pena. They would deserve it at that point. It'd be the greatest trilogy in women's mixed martial arts. And you know what? I do want to say that I do believe Amanda Nunes is going to win this fight. And I say it in the sense that she was winning the fight in that first round. She had a very successful first round. Amanda does have a tendency to slow down after the first round. I think the world knows that, and if the world knows that, I'm sure it's gotten back around to, I should say, to Amanda and her team. And there were adjustments made in Amanda's camp that I think will help her beyond the first round, to where she will have a gas tank in this fight beyond the first round. And she will pace herself. She knows what is on the line, and I think she'll pace herself en route to a finish. And then we'll see the third fight, and the third fight will be massive. But Amanda Nunes has to avoid the brawling style of Julianna Pena. I think the best way for Amanda Nunes to win this fight is to get in top position and maul Julianna Pena. Julianna Pena is tough to take down. She's got great jiu-jitsu. She's very well-rounded. We haven't really seen that well-rounded style from Amanda Nunes in quite some time. Have those skills, those other skills that weren't needed in those fights that she was winning, have they eroded? We'll see. But I do believe that she can win this fight. I'm picking Amanda Nunes. I won't pick against her. I didn't pick against her the last time. I got Amanda Nunes beating Julianna Pena in the second fight, in the rematch, reclaiming her 135-pound belt, and I do see a trilogy taking place by the end of the year. So there you have it. My UFC 277 countdown show, my preview and prediction. I got Amanda Nunes beating Julianna Pena. I have Brandon Moreno beating Cara France, and Derrick Lewis defeating the very, very tough Sergey Pavlovich. Enjoy the fights, keep punching, and subscribe to the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Take care.